When I when I served on the county commission, that was a great job as well because, as you know, Broward County is a huge place. And when you serve on the county commission or you're the mayor of Broward County, you get to make the port better and the airport better and mass transit better. You get to try to make Broward County very strong economically statewide. But sometimes you still feel so far away from the people. You don't always get to meet the people you're helping. Property appraiser, I think, is the greatest elected job alive because your job is basically constituent services. It's the type of job that when I go home and I put my head on my pillow, I feel like I did something really good that day. And just briefly before we talk about that, and just for the folks on here, let me just kind of tell you what we do. There are really three main functions to our office. The first function is we determine the value of every piece of property in Broward County for tax purposes, whether it's residential, commercial, tangible personal property, or centrally assessed property, which are railroads. And the reason that's important is when people pay their property taxes, the amount of taxes they pay is the relationship between the value of the property that we set and the tax rate set by your local governments. So the higher the value of the property, the more taxes people pay. The lower the value of property, the lower amount of taxes they pay. And so the most important thing we want to do is make sure we get it right. As I said before, Broward County is such a big place, we appraise more parcels than exist in many states. And even though the people of our office do a great job and their assessments are very accurate, mistakes can occur, or maybe people have information about their property that we don't have that could help us bring down their assessed value, which would bring down their property taxes. And I wanted to bring that up because in August, every single resident of Broward County is going to get a very important document from me in the mail. It's your truth and millage notice. It's not a tax bill. It's basically a document so you can make sure you don't overly pay in your property taxes. And it's going to show a lot of cool things. It'll show the value of your property for tax purposes, all the tax saving exemptions you're getting. It'll show the dates and times that all your local governments are going to be discussing their tax rates and their budgets. And it'll show the proposed amount of property taxes you're going to be asked to pay for this coming fiscal year. And I always tell everybody when you get that document, really take a look at it because if you think your assessed value is incorrect, let me go through it with you. Or if you're not getting every exemption you're entitled to that can save you money, you have till September 17th to let me know so we can apply it to you so it'll be reflected in your tax bill. And that brings me to the second that we do. We give tax saving exemptions to people that qualify. And there are a lot of exemptions under Florida law. There's the homestead exemption, you have senior exemptions, you have veterans exemptions, you have widows exemptions. You have lots of ways where you can save a lot of money in your property taxes. And I always tell everybody go on our website at bcpa.net, click on exemptions. And if there's something you're not getting, just let me know by September 17th and we'll make sure you get it. The other thing that we do just briefly is something very important. We have a very aggressive both civil fraud group and also a criminal fraud group. Our civil fraud group basically finds people who are cheating the system by illegally getting an exemption. For example, if they're getting a homestead exemption and they're not entitled to it, for example, maybe they have an exemption somewhere else, you can't have that under the law, or if they're doing something they're not allowed to do, what we do is we go and we find their exemption, we take it away, we back tax them up to 10 years, include a 50% penalty and 15% interest. The penalties can be pretty hefty, but they're hefty because you don't want people cheating the system because when they cheat the system, all of us have to pay more or we lose services. The other thing that we have is a very aggressive criminal fraud division. And this is very important. Unfortunately, South Florida is the title fraud capital of the world. It's the capital of the world because you have criminals, and that's what they are. And what they do is they walk into the recording divisions every single day in the state of Florida. They file fake deeds on people's properties and they take those deeds and they extort people for money or mortgage rent or sell the property. They do it all the time. And the reason it's so easy for them is the recording division for every county has a ministerial duty. They have to accept whatever documents filed with them. So you have these criminals, they walk in, they file a fake deed, and they do something nefarious with it. So the first thing we wanted to do was give the people of Broward County the opportunity to fight the fraud before the fraud occurs. So about 4 years ago now, we came up with a great program called Owner Alert. It's really a notification program letting people know if somebody changes the title to their property. And here's how anybody can sign up. If you just go to our website at bcpa.net, click on Owner Alert, and then once you do that, you can type in your name, your parcel ID number, and your email address. And if we have your email address on file, you're automatically verified. If not, you have to upload your Florida driver's license or Florida ID. If you don't have that, you have to upload a utility bill or something proving ownership. And then if any document, legitimate or not, is filed changing ownership, you're notified instantaneously by email, by text message. You can even get a hard copy in the mail. And we've had about 330,000 Broward County property owners sign up so far. And my goal is to get everybody to sign up because they're to protect their most important asset, their home. And just briefly, after I started this program, I started getting emails and calls from residents. And they would say, Marty, I just got an alert from your office that somebody changed the title to my property, but I didn't do it. And then I got more and more and more. And I realized how big of a deal it was. So I came up with a different idea. I wanted to work with law enforcement, build criminal cases, and put the people in jail who are doing this. So I called the Florida Department of Revenue and I asked if I could do it. And I gave them a little bit of heartburn. And they go, Marty, you're a property appraiser. You're not law enforcement. But we understand a lot of people are having their homes stolen in South Florida. And we understand it's a big problem, especially for seniors and vulnerable people. So we're going to approve your program and make you the guinea pig for the rest of the state to see if it works. I go, great. So I decided to call it my Crimes Against Property team. I then went to the county commission, which funds my budget. And I told them what I wanted to do. And all nine county commissioners said, absolutely, Marty, we'll fund your program. I thought that was going so well. I went to see my friend, Sheriff Tony. And I go, Sheriff Tony, I'm super excited. I have a new program in my office, my Crimes Against Property team, but I have a big problem. I'm not law enforcement. You are. I can't issue probable cause affidavits, search warrants. I can't do that job. You can. Can we work together? And without thinking twice, Sheriff Tony has now provided us four sheriff's detectives that work in our office. And so we can actually do the job of law enforcement. I thought that was going so good. I went to see the state attorney, Harold Pryor, and I go, Harold, I'm super excited. The sheriff and I, we're working together and we're going to build these criminal cases. And if we bring you cases you think are prosecutorial, would you prosecute the people that we bring to you? And he goes, absolutely, Marty. And he actually assigned an assistant state attorney to work with our office so we can actually prosecute the people that we bring to him. And so now our Crimes Against Property team consists of about 10 people from our office that are all former law enforcement, four sheriff's detectives, two Florida Department of Law Enforcement detectives. We work with the state attorney's office. We work with every single city, including Fort Lauderdale and Hollywood and Pembroke Pines. And we work with the court system to get property back to people in a much more expeditious and cost-efficient manner. And we actually work with the FBI as well. And since our inception, we've had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of individual criminal cases, hundreds of arrests, many convictions. We actually have a 100% conviction rate, and we work with the court system to get property back to people in a much more expeditious and cost-efficient manner. And I wanted to bring that up. I can go on and on about this program. I'm so happy I could tell you the individual cases we have, but what I really wanted to do, and of course, I'm happy to talk about that after I talk about this. I really wanted to talk just about the new tax amendment that's being put on the November ballot. And I was really, in particular, excited to talk to the League of Women Voters about it because at the end of the day, I believe very strongly that the people of our communities really, really, really trust the League of Women Voters. As you know, you all take very important positions on so many important issues affecting the people of our state, our country, and our county. And I think when the League of Women Voters talks about something, there's a lot of heft to it. And so my goal is basically just to provide you as much information as possible so the League of Women Voters can make a decision as to whether or not they think something's good, bad, however you want to have it. I just want you to have the information. And before we just talk about it, let me kind of tell you how we got here. About a year ago, maybe a little bit more than a year ago, some guy from North Florida got very upset about his property taxes. And he tweeted, property taxes are terrible. We got to get rid of them. And when he did that, Governor DeSantis saw that tweet and Governor DeSantis retweeted it. And as you know, when the governor retweets something, it brings a big conversation into a very important issue. And so when that happened, one of the first things that occurred was the Florida Policy Institute, which is a nonprofit, nonpartisan think tank up in Tallahassee, decided to do a study. And they said, okay, if you got rid of all property taxes, that's residential, commercial, tangible personal property, all of that, what does that actually mean? And they determined, well, that means that property taxes collect every single year between 55 and $60 billion that funds all of our local services, including schools, police, fire, roads, bridges, and others. And so if you got rid of it, you would lose basically 55 to $60 billion. And then they said, well, you still need to have schools, roads, bridges, police, fire, and all these services that are very important. So how do we replace 55 to $60 billion? And they said, well, you have to raise the sales tax to 12%, maybe 13, 14, or 15% in places like South Florida where the cost of living is very, very high. Then what they did was they decided to poll the people of Florida. Because as you know, for anything to change when it comes to property tax law, or to increase the homestead, or even do away with property taxes, the people have to vote it in the Constitution. They have to change the Constitution. In order to change the Constitution, more than 60% of the people voting have to vote in favor of something, and then it's the new law. And so what they did was they polled likely voters for that were going to likely to vote in November of 2026. And they asked them, do you support getting rid of all property taxes, homestead, commercial, everything, and increasing the sales tax to the amounts I just mentioned? And overwhelmingly, the people of Florida said it was a very bad idea. About 70% of the people said it was a bad idea. All political parties said it was a bad idea. And all areas of the state said it was a bad idea, especially in South Florida, where they said it was a very bad idea. And once that occurred, the conversation changed a little bit from eliminating all property taxes to focusing on homestead property taxes only. And that's kind of where we are now. And as you know, the Florida legislature met in a special session from June 1st to June 3rd. And they passed what I have on the screen here, CS for HJR 1F. That's Committee Substitute for House Joint Resolution 1F. And here's what it does. So let me kind of tell you, this is what they put on the ballot. Let me tell you what it doesn't do, and then I'll go through each thing. So first, just to let you know, what they did was they took out schools. So the constitutional amendment does not affect schools. So no matter what, homesteaded property owners will always pay taxes to schools. They're not impacted at all by this amendment. The other thing it said was in order to qualify for the first year, you had to live or be a resident of Florida on January 1st, 2027. That doesn't mean you had to own a home in Florida. You just had to be a resident. So, for example, if your kids who never owned a home before now want to buy a home, they would qualify because they've been a resident. Uh, then it said if you move into Florida basically after January 1, 2027, basically you become a resident after that, then you would actually have to wait 5 years before you get the benefit at all of the new constitutional amendment. So those are things that are very important to note. And anybody that moves in, they can still file for homestead, but they'd be under the current system. And so here's what it does. It basically says if it passes the first year, January 1st, 2027, you would get a $150,000 homestead exemption. Then it says in 2028, that exemption will increase to $250,000. And then it gets a little bit vague where it says that the Florida legislature would be required to make a schedule to potentially eliminate all homestead property taxes, except for the school portion of the tax bill, but it's really open to interpretation. And what it does, from my understanding, it increases that exemption each year based on inflation. And so what I decided to do was say, okay, I want to give the information to the people of Broward County. I want to find out what their savings would be. And also, I want to find out what the fiscal impact would be for local governments because people deserve all that information. And I basically said if you applied the exemption, if it was in effect for the 2025 tax year, and I used that tax year because that's the last tax year that we had where we had all the values and all the millage rates. I basically said this would have been the actual effect that that amendment would have had on that year. So you can kind of get an idea. So this first one I want to show you is a slide dealing with the $150,000 homestead exemption. So if you live on your property and you're a resident as of January 1st, 2027, the first year you would get a $150,000 homestead exemption on all except for the school portion of the tax bill. And when you see this, as you can see, there are 424,899 homesteaded properties in Broward County. If this was in effect, most property owners don't have a full $150,000 of value that they could knock out. If you don't have the full $150,000 of value, the average savings for property owner in Broward County is about $1,104 that first year. If you do have $150,000 of value that you pay taxes on your property, you'll save about $1,325. So that's the savings the first year. But as you can see, the county commission, for example, and this would be the effect on them, it levied $1.8 billion in the 25 tax year. That's the money it utilized to pay for its services. If this was in effect, they would have lost, as you can see, right about 10.8%, about $194 million. So they would have collected not 1.8, but about $1.609 billion. So that's the first year. Now, I wanted to go to this number, this page, because these are basically all the cities. And what I wanted to highlight, which I thought was interesting, was Pembroke Park and Tamarack, because depending on where you live, the impact to the city is different based on whether or not you have lots of homesteaded properties or you have lots of commercial. And so the city that's always barely impacted is Pembroke Park. Pembroke Park is very few homesteaded properties. It's really a mobile home community with lots of commercial properties. And so as you can see, Pembroke Park loses in this about 0.09% of its budget. That's a very nominal number that really doesn't have much of an impact on their budget. But you can see Tamarack has actually hit the hardest in there where Tamarack, who has a lot of homes, actually would lose about 22.3% of what it collects in property taxes. And I just think it's a very interesting number because, like I said, depending on where you live, the impact can be much, much different to your city. And Allie, could you go to the next page as well? Oh, and the one after that one. There you go. The next one is, and by the way, Allie, thank you so much for doing that for me. I really appreciate it. The next one is what happens in 2028. So in 2028, as you can see, the homestead would get bigger. So it was 150,000, now it's 250,000. And here's what occurs. If you have a $250,000 homestead exemption on all taxing authorities except for the school portion of the tax bill, again, you have 424,899 homesteaded properties in Broward County. If this was in effect and a property doesn't have the full $250,000 of assessed value, if you don't, the average savings for property owner in Broward County is about $1,879. But if you are a property where you have $250,000 that you're currently paying property taxes on, and that gets wiped out, you would save about $2,661. Now, once again, the county commission in 2025 collected $1.8 billion in property taxes. If this was in effect, the county commission would collect about $1.47 billion. And so they would lose right about $333 million of what they collect, about 18.5% of what they collect in property taxes. And then, Allie, oh, thank you so much. And this page again is all the cities. And this one, it changes a little bit. The one city that stays the same always is Pembroke Park, which is it's a good one to show you that it really is barely impacted. A city with very few homesteaded properties. They only get impacted by 1.2% of what they collect. They can easily make that up. But Cooper City, which is a bedroom community, has a lot of homesteaded single family homes. They would lose about 34.5% of what they collect in property taxes. And so that's a pretty big chunk of what they collect. And then, Allie, if you can go to the page right after that. I appreciate it. Now, this one I wanted to bring in. Oh, sorry, my cat's about to run through here. No, no, Toby. If my this so this one I wanted to do because, as I said, the statute says that the legislature, it can be interpreted, is going to be required to ultimately fully exempt all ad valorem taxes on homesteaded properties except for the school portion of the tax bill. And if that happens, that's basically what's scheduled to get there. Here would be the impact on Broward County. Again, the county commission has 424,899 homesteaded properties. If this were in effect, the average savings for a property owner would be $3,448. As you can see, though, the county commission, which collected $1.8 billion in property taxes, would now collect about $1.1 billion, which is about 35.3% of what they would have collected. So that's actually the loss to them, which is important. And something that's kind of interesting about this, I just want to bring up to everybody. If you look at this number, about more than half of their current property taxes go to fund public safety, which is the most important function. So if you take out 50 to 55% of what they currently do and another 35.3%, it doesn't leave a whole lot of money to do all the other things that they have to fund. I just think that's very important to note. And Ali would, oh, thank you so much. Now, this one is a big time stark contrast and a difference. Again, Pembroke Park, 1.4% of their entire property tax collections goes away. That's nothing. Parkland, however, is hit the hardest. They are a pure bedroom community. They have very little commercial. It's almost all residential. And as you can see, they would lose 75.5% of what they collect in property taxes. Now you can see the savings for property owners pretty large. It's almost $8,000 or $7,795,000, but they would lose 75% of what they collect. And I think it's important to note because more than half of their revenue is they use towards public safety. You take 50% out there and you lose 75%. You really don't have any money. I don't know how the maths, and that's where something would have to change. If you can go to the one after this, there's one more portion of the constitutional amendment that's not getting a whole lot of attention, but it's also very important.
Your
Um,
trailblazer,
yeah,
comma, exploring.
oh, it's so the constitutional amendment also affects non-homestead properties as well. And here's the way that it works: all property that's not homesteaded property can't go up more than 10%, except for the school portion of the tax bill. So each year, if your values go way, way up, it's capped at 10% for all taxing authorities, except the school portion, which can go up as much as it wants. This also does not apply to the schools, but it actually drops that cap from 10% to 5%, basically saying that all non-homestead property, all commercial properties, residential properties that aren't homestead and others, the value that they'd be taxing can't go up more than 5%, except for the school portion of the tax bill. So I actually wanted to see how that would affect Broward County and the cities. And so I basically said, okay, we know what the values were in 2024. We know what they were in 2025. And rather than increasing them 10%, which we did, we increased them 5%. And so in Broward County, you can see there are 298,181 non-homesteaded properties. If this were in effect, the impact would be right about $26 million, about 1.5% of what they collect in property taxes. And I also did that for on the next page as well, Allie, for the cities. Um, and that is the extent of the constitutional amendment. I know I spent a lot of time on that, but I actually believe that this is one of the most important votes that every single person in Florida is ever going to take because it could potentially change things. And I'll tell you, me personally, I haven't taken a public position on it. And the reason being is because I have so much information and I want to get it out to the public. And I just strongly believe that if I take a public position on it, the only people that are going to read the stuff I give to them and look at it and the information are the people that agree with me. The other people that don't agree with me aren't going to want to look at what I put out there. Also, I think it's important to note I've learned very quickly this is not a political issue. As you know, sometimes Democrats go in their corner, Republicans go in their corner, they fight out different issues. This one, I've had many conversations with Democrats and Republicans on both sides of this. I've had Democrats and Republicans say, man, Marty, things are rough right now. Everything's so expensive. I'm just looking for some help somewhere. I'm going to support it. I've also had Democrats and Republicans say, you know what, I'm really concerned about the loss of services, things of that nature. And as a result, I'm not going to support it. So for me, what I just really hope is that the people of Florida that are going to vote in 2026 really just do their research, look at everything, go through all the facts, see how it's going to affect them, their communities, their taxing authorities, and just make the best vote possible. Because here's why it's so very important. When there is somebody elected to office that you think is doing a bad job, you can elect somebody else to that office. But when you change the Constitution, it's there forever. You really can't change it and you're stuck with it. And so that's why it's just such an important vote for everybody. With that said, Allie, does anybody have any questions? I hope that I didn't talk too quick, and I've had like 5 cups of coffee, 2 Red Bulls, and a Diet Coke, so I'm kind of wired. But I'm just very excited to be here. Like I said, I appreciate so much the League of Women Voters. I love the fact that you all are so engaged and so active doing what's right. And thank you for your service, Allie, and everybody on here.
Of course. I don't see any questions in the chat, which I'm really surprised about. Come on, guys. Let's hear all your questions.
Oh, and the other thing too
Yes,
that
Julie
I
liked
forgot.
it. Julie liked your
Oh,
presentation. She said it was very
well,
informative. Thank you.
well, thank you, Julie. Well, I'll tell you something that's also very important to note as well that I forgot to mention. Hey, Julie, all of the current exemptions that are currently in law will still apply. Nothing else changes. So, for example, if they think about this as increasing the homestead exemption, so if the homestead exemption goes up to 150,000, then what'll occur is you can still get the widow's exemption, all those different things. So those are all still going to be in effect.
Yes, everybody can unmute to ask questions at this point, or just ask your questions in the chat, whatever's easy.
Uh,
Hi, Allie. Thank you for allowing us to
oh,
unmute. And hi, Marty. I
hey,
sat next to you when you came to present in Hallandale, and
oh,
that shows you how much I love this. I wanted to hear it
oh,
again with the updated information, so thank you.
oh, thank you.
Um,
I really appreciate it.
yeah, I'm wondering, so you and I are similar and we love numbers and stats.
Mhm. Yes.
Yet when I think about many of the people who are serving, they have a hard time with numbers and stats. So I'm wondering if there is a way, and I mean, I'd be happy to work with your office if you want, but
Mm-hmm.
really if there's a way to put some of these stats into graphics that people
Hmm.
can share on social media, but keeping your office
Hmm.
in as neutral a position as is beneficial. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's a great suggestion. There's so much information and it's so important. And putting it, I think, in graphs, I think it's a very smart thing to do. And so honestly, I'm definitely gonna have I'll have our IT folks start working on that. And I would love your suggestion as well. After we're done with it, if I could send you and get your thoughts, that would be great, or even your help. I really appreciate it. The one thing that I have to also be careful about when it comes to our office. So as there's also a Florida statute that they enacted when it comes to constitutional amendments when they're put on the ballot, where it
Mhm.
basically says the elected official can say whatever they want, but you can't use the resources of the county to advocate for or against something. And so what I have to do is just like this stuff, I just have to make sure it's very neutral and just provides the information, which is what we're allowed to do. But I think that's a great suggestion, and I appreciate that because I want to just get everything out there so people can just make a really good vote. Thank you so much for that.
A number of people agree with Brett, and so it sounds like this is a great idea. And Tamara Bell had just acknowledged percentage and tax impact is what she wanted to learn about. So if that
Mhm.
could be included, that would be great. This is great.
Absolutely.
This is a great community service, Marty, that you can
Oh.
really the biggest problem with a lot of these big changes is just the lack of understanding, the lack of
Mhm.
outreach. And so
Mhm.
anything that you could do in terms of providing materials through social media, through your
Mhm.
website, I
Mhm.
think that that's a really smart idea. I see Denise
Mhm.
McFall has a question.
Yeah, I'm still trying to come up to speed on this, so if
Mhm.
I'm understanding this right, this change would not impact the schools or the police, is that correct?
Yes and no.
Okay.
So the change doesn't impact the schools. So there, that everything stays the same with the schools, but the police could be impacted. So what the constitutional amendment says, it specifically says what you can spend ad valorem tax dollars on, and it says you can spend it on schools, public safety, constitutional officers, administration. There's things it says you can spend it on, and then there's a little catch-all thing that says, and they can spend it on whatever they want to spend it on, except unless it's prohibited by law. But here's the thing: I don't know if you remember in the session that they had the regular session, the House actually put a very similar proposal out, but their proposal basically held public safety harmless. This one doesn't. So what I believe would occur if this passes, you're going to be having all governments making different decisions. So I'll give you some examples. There are more than 400 municipalities. There are 67 county commissions. And what each will do is try to figure out how to deal with their budget shortfall differently. Some may say, you know what, we're going to raise fees. Maybe we're going to raise the millage rate. We're going to figure out a way to get more money so we can actually continue funding services, including public safety, at those levels. Others may say, you know what, the people voted for a tax cut. And so we're not going to do that. We're just going to cut, and public safety is not held harmless. It can be cut as well. So, truthfully, the only group that's held truthfully harmless are the schools, which as the school boards can still levy their millage rate on the same value that's currently there, they're completely cut out of it. But everybody else could be impacted by this amendment.
So,
Marty, oh, go ahead. Oh, Denise, you still have another question?
well, I guess, so would impact parks, it would libraries, I mean, but
It
I
it,
don't,
it could impact everything, but it'll be. And I'm so sorry, Denise. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
no,
It's a
no,
it's a very hard question to answer specifically, only because nobody really knows what each local government will do. And that's why I said it could be like a mismatch everywhere where governments are doing different things. A good example is this. I'll just use them as examples. Let's say Fort Lauderdale decides it wants to increase fees, sewer fees, solid waste, garbage fees, the millage rate to bring that money in. But then another city, let's use Parkland as an example, and not even Park. Let's say Davie. Davie may say, you know what? we're just gonna cut our budgets, cut parks, cut libraries, bring down public safety so we can. That's how we're gonna do it. We're not gonna increase fees or taxes, and so it can be all over the place. And I think every city, every county could be different the way they handle it.
Denise, does that answer your question? Okay. Augustina Scar asks how this will impact affordable housing funds available at the state level, if at all.
That I'm not quite sure. I do know that actually that's a question I can't really answer. I'm very sorry about that. I don't even want to try. I think I'm gonna, if I try to answer it, I may give bad information on it. So I'm not sure. I do know that I do believe when they pay doc stamps, that can go into, I think, the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, if I remember. It's been so long since I served in the legislature. But I'm not quite sure how it would be impacted.
Joe has his hand raised.
Thank you. Good presentation, Marty.
Thank you.
The question I have is between the exemptions for the homestead property and the percentage caps on a non-homestead. How is that working out proportionally to the existing taxes? Is one getting hit harder than the other?
Such a great question. So you mean currently how it is now, not taking into account the constitutional amendment. So currently, and thank you so much, Joe. So currently under Florida law, as you know, there are different caps. The most important one, which affects the most people, is the homestead exemption cap. It's called the Save Our Homes cap. It basically says that every single year that you have a property after you have your homestead exemption, the value you're taxed on can't go up more than 3%, or the consumer price index, whichever is lower. Lately, it's been the maximum of 3% because it's based on inflation. So people that are homesteaded property owners, especially long-term homesteaded property owners, are not really impacted by heavy property taxes. I'm a good example. I bought my home in 2016. I was able to afford my taxes at the time when I did it, and it's only gone up very minimally since then because of that cap. However, currently under Florida law, non-homestead properties get hit much, much harder. And the reason being is because the value they're taxed on can't go more than 10%, except for the school portion of the tax bill, which has no cap. And as you know, over the past probably 6 years, all real estate has just boomed. Ever since COVID, it has boomed. And in the commercial sector as well. So non-homestead properties, they've hit the 10% cap pretty much the entire time. And the school portion has gone up even higher than that. So at the end of the day, the way the current law is really set up, it's really set up to protect homesteaded properties, not non-homesteaded properties the same way.
Tamara Bell has a question. I don't understand the percent total impact column.
Oh, okay, sure. We can take a look at it if you like. So it's let's see, the percent total impact. Oh, okay, I understand. So what it is this. What I wanted to do was basically look at the constitutional amendment and say, okay, if it was in effect, this is how it would have been applied to the 2025 tax year. And so we had the number that shows the savings, but the percentage number is basically the loss of revenue to the county or to the cities. So a good example is if in a full elimination, let's say there are no property taxes, the savings would have been $3,448, but the county commission would have lost 35.3% of what they collect, about $636 million. So that percentage is basically what the fiscal impact would be, the loss of revenue. That's the less amount of money they'd be bringing in. Does that help answer the question?
Tamara?
It's a great question.
She's driving, so.
Oh, of course. No, absolutely.
I don't, Rhonda Roth has raised her hand. Go ahead.
Hi, Rhonda.
Thank you so much for this, Marty. This is
Thank
wonderful.
you.
I made the maybe mistake of listening to Jason Garcia's Substack post yesterday. And he talked about not only the homestead exemption, but as part of this constitutional amendment, there were going to be tax cuts across the board on all kinds of commercial things. And I think that the loss of revenue to the municipalities was going to be even greater as a result of that. But I don't know if people know about that. Is that we've heard about it as a homestead exemption. referendum, but do you think people are aware of the other components?
I don't, I think that right now it's still so new to everybody. If you think about this, I was thinking about this actually that same exact point the other day. Really, the legislature first saw this pretty much right before June 1st. They passed it out June 3rd. And now we're here now. It's got a lot of information in it. And I think a lot of it, people are very much focused on the homesteaded portion because that's the biggest portion. But you're right. There's a big commercial portion in there as well, which is where they drop that 10% cap to 5%. And that could be over time, could be a significant a loss of revenue to local municipalities and to the county. Um, excuse me. I think it was the legislature's attempt to also figure out a way to address commercial properties and non-homestead properties at the same time. But I think that's been getting a lot less focus from the news media, I think, and others, because I think really the main focus has been on the increase in the homestead exemption. But I do think when people vote on this, they should have all the information because, like I said before, when you change the Constitution, it's there for perpetuity, and you just have to be happy with it when it happens. Because if you're not happy with it, you can't really change, and you're kind of stuck with it.
May I ask a follow-up, Ellie?
Of
Sure, of course.
of course.
Oh, thank you. I just was curious if this process,
Mhm.
in, an extended session after the budget was supposed to be approved, which is their really only job in those 60 days, if this is actually legal, and if we really need to allow this to happen, is there anything we can do to turn it around? I know a lot of
Well,
us are not okay with the process that this got in. So is it actually sort of okay, legal?
Well, I do know that there have been a couple legal challenges that have been brought up recently that may ultimately make it to the Supreme Court. I think the challenges were the ballot language, and I believe what the law says, if the state Supreme Court rules that the ballot language is illegal, I think it goes to the Attorney General, and his job is to come up with different language. Um, I'm not sure if there have been yet any lawsuits on the merits of what they're proposing, and so it's hard to know. I do know, from my understanding, that part of this basically says that you have to if you move here after January 1st, 2027, you have to be a resident for 5 years before you can qualify. I do believe a few decades ago, the Florida legislature, or the Supreme Court of Florida, actually struck down a very similar provision that they were trying to do. So I do think there are going to be challenges. My gut tells me at the end of the day, this will definitely be on the ballot. I'll be very surprised if it's not. And so that's why I think, everybody's just prepared that this will likely be on the ballot. And so what I'm just hoping, like I said before, is that people really just do their research. And that's why I also love that the League of Women Voters is really, looking at this, because I just strongly believe that the public really trusts what you all do. And I think you all providing information can go a very long way. But I do think that very likely this will be on the ballot. That's just my gut. I may be wrong, but that's the best way I could answer it.
Thank you so much for that. And not only
Oh,
the
thank
League,
you.
but there are a lot of environmental organizations that
Mhm.
are extremely concerned about their concerns being the low-hanging fruit that will be lopped off.
Mhm. Yeah, it's a very big deal. I mean, like I said, anytime you change the Constitution, it's a big deal, especially something like this, which is, it basically changes, can change a whole lot and can have a lot of different effects. And so, no, thank you so much for that.
Anybody else? Joan Sternberg said earlier, thank you for another informative presentation and your energy and passion on our behalf.
Oh, thank you so much. That's so nice, Joan. That makes me feel so good. Oh, that made my day. Thank you.
Well, we appreciate you, Marty. This
Oh,
was a great
thank you.
presentation, very articulate, and it is complicated.
Mhm.
And anything that we could do to further educate on the subject matter to make people understand, to help people to understand what the implications truly are and what that impact is to them, I think
Mhm.
will make a big difference. So
Absolutely. And as I said this before, Allie, I just appreciate so much you and the League of Women Voters having me on. I absolutely adore the League of Women Voters. And I think that the public of Broward County does as well. There are a few groups that when they speak or that I think people really, really listen. And the League of Women Voters, I think, is one of the most highly respected groups in Broward County. And I just very much appreciate you all. And actually, I think Marianne has her hand up,
she does.
which is good. And by the way, it's one of my favorite names. My mom's name was Marianne. So, and she
Go
spelled the exact same way.
ahead. Go ahead, Marianne.
And Marty, I knew your mother very well and your dad.
Oh, thank you, Marianne. I really
And
appreciate that.
I've often had been in the room, and I know how your mother was a beautiful woman, and she brought a
Oh,
lot of joy to those kids where she was the
oh,
principal. I know Sister John Norton. I mean, I know you
oh,
very well from
oh.
your early days, but anyway,
That makes me feel
congratulations to
so,
where you are
oh,
today.
thank you. That made me feel so good. I appreciate that. You know
Your
what?
mother,
I
your mother
miss
was
my
a
mom
lovely
so.
woman. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. You know what? My favorite thing to do. So I miss my mom so much. But my favorite selfie that I get to take all the time is at St. David Catholic School. They have a wonderful picture of her. It's like right when you walk in, and every single time I go, I take a picture with my mom. So it's a thank you. Thank you, Marianne. That meant a lot to me. I really appreciate that. Thank you for saying that.
And I know she touched many, many children. So
She
yes,
did. Well, you know
yeah.
what I like to think of, and I don't mean to digress, but what I like to think of is that so for everybody on here, my mother was the founding principal of St. David Catholic School more than 40 years ago. I even went there in second grade, and she was there for many years. And I see all these people, all these kids that grew up to do really great things. And I always like to think that my mom had a little small part in each one of it. And so it makes me very, very proud. And so thank you, Marion. That like literally made my night. I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. You're awesome. Thank you for that.
Oh,
Christina
she'd be
Sklar
very
said
proud
that.
of you. That I know.
Oh,
But
thank you.
Oh,
I did want to
go
mention, if I might, I
Of
was at
course.
the mayor's breakfast that was
Mhm,
hosted by the Realtors Association on Friday,
mhm,
and there were about 11 mayors present. And the question,
mhm,
was asked, how is it going to affect their cities? And of course, each one of them spoke that it is going to devastate their
mhm,
cities. And specifically, Mayor Angelo Castillo from
mhm,
Pembroke Pines, he
mhm,
actually read something that he had written just before he got to the meeting, and it expressed in about 2 paragraphs or 3 paragraphs how this is going to impact the community. And I'd like to get my hands on that because I think it should be shared. And I also had raised the question for the League of Women Voters while I was there. How are they getting the message? They're here to help get the message out. So,
mhm.
if we're
Yes.
collaborating together to speak to as many people as we can, promoting,
Mhm.
the work of the League of Women Voters, I think
Oh,
we'll we'll make some impact. Anyway, thanks to all of the
it,
women for
it
showing up.
will. And you know what, Marianne, and I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I apologize about that. You're completely right. It's interesting. I actually had a conversation about Pembroke Pines today. If I remember, my numbers might be a little off in the top of my head, but Pembroke Pines has, for example, I believe maybe they actually have more homesteaded properties than Fort Lauderdale. They are the second most populous city now. And I believe, if I remember, out of 50 some odd thousand properties, 40 some odd, 40,000 or so are homesteaded. And here's the thing: Fort Lauderdale has about 80,000 properties, and about 38,000 are homesteaded. But Fort Lauderdale has a lot more commercial. They have hotels on beaches. They have so much development, and so a city like Fort Lauderdale can make up a lot more of the revenue than a city like Pembroke Pines, which is mostly a homesteaded community. I think it's something I think is just very interesting. It's one of those things where whichever city you come from, everyone is impacted a little bit differently.
And just I'll make a comment. The mayor of Plantation and the mayor of
Mhm,
West Park, the mayor
mhm,
of West Park said to the mayor of Plantation, if this happens, it's like you catch a cold. If it happens, it's like we are annihilated. So, you're right, as far as each city having its own revenue sources, but the small cities, yes, it'll be devastating. So
Thank you for, no, I appreciate that. It's interesting. This has nothing to do with this, but it's important, I think, to think about things this way as well. Most states have three sources of revenue. They have a sales tax, an income tax, and property taxes. In Florida, thank goodness we don't have an income tax. We never want that, but we have basically property tax and sales taxes. And so when you start limiting one of them, you're definitely going to save people money, but there's no way to really, unless you do other things, there's not another leg to be able to bring in money to kind of make up for any type of loss there. So Florida, it's going to be exceptionally interesting to see what happens in November. My gut tells me it's going to be a very close election. Generally, it's hard to get over 60%. I mean, if you think about this, any candidate that wins by 60% of the vote, it's a landslide. And so they tend to be 58% to 62%. And so I don't know which way it's going to go. It's going to be very close. And I just really hope that everybody does their homework. I'll tell you this, if everybody researched this, like the legal women voters research things, I'd feel very confident that whatever happened was the right thing. But I just really appreciate that, Marianne. Thank you.
I see one last comment that I started to tell you about. Augustina Sklar, she is actually our chair for affordable housing, and she's an
Wonderful.
architect, and she said she uses the BCPA website every day, and she thanked me for
Oh,
the presentation this evening.
Oh, thank you. And also, our website is our window to the world. We actually get about 2 million hits a day to it. It's basically for the public. And since you utilize that every single day, if there's anything that is missing, anything you think we can make it better, let's say Palm Beach or Miami-Dade are doing something we're not doing, just let us know. We're constantly trying to update it just for the public to make it more user friendly. So just let me know and we will gladly do it. But that made my day. Thank you for that.
She just gave you a thumbs up.
Oh, she's awesome. Thank you so much, Augustina. I really appreciate that.
Anybody else? Well, you guys have been great this evening. Thanks for being a little patient with us. Glad it all worked out. It was a wonderful presentation. And you guys, this membership committee has been just wonderful this evening with your questions and being open. And it's the candid conversation that helps to educate everyone. And I appreciate you all for joining us this evening.
Thank you, Allie, and everybody. And like I said, Marianne, you made my night. Thank you for that. And thanks, everybody. Well, everybody have a wonderful, wonderful day. Thanks again. Take care.
Thank you,
Bye.
Marty. Thank you, Marty.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Allie.
Sure. Have a great night, everyone.
Wonderful presentation.
Marty, I'll be in touch. I don't know if he hung up, but he probably did. Okay, very good. All right, guys. Thanks so much.
thank
Thank
you.
you, Allison.
Good
Bye-bye.
night.